Welcome to Hornet Tales. My name is Gene Millen. I was born April 18, 1925, so that makes me 97 and a month. I was on the USS Hornet from the very beginning during World War II. I was a plank owner. In case you don't know what a plank owner is, it's the original crew member. I was in Division 6, which was the gunnery department, and all the gunner's mates and fire controlmen were in that group. My main job was taking care of 55 Mark 14 gun sights. The gun sight was very important because it told the operator how far ahead so that the plane would be there when the bullets got there. Corrosion was a big factor when you're at sea all the time. Sometimes the sight would get blocked up, you couldn't even see through it, so I had to take it apart and clean it and then put it back on the gun. Most of the gun sights were in the catwalks along this side and this side. But there was one gun up high behind the smokestack, and it was always so good as long as you're in front of the smokestack. When I was aboard ship, I had one incident where I went through a doorway and I was looking out on the flight deck, and coming right at us was a Japanese torpedo plane called the Betty, twin engine. It was flying towards the ship. Everybody's firing at it, and I could actually see the tracer shells going through the plane. And finally it just dropped out of sight and it never hit us. I saw a plane land and a 100-pound bomb fell off its wing, bounced up the deck, and exploded. And the poor guy that come out to unhook the plane was killed. It damaged the flight deck and took them about 10 or 15 minutes, and they had the hole covered with a metal plate, and everything was back to normal again. I've seen planes land and hit the deck so hard that you see an inner tube fly off each side of the deck. I've seen planes land with one wheel, and sometimes the pilots did a great job. I remember several times seeing bombs and torpedoes come out of planes when they landed. Some landed and the machine guns went off. The guy didn't turn the safety off. One time Avenger landed and the torpedo came out and bounced up the deck, and it didn't explode because it wasn't armed yet. One time one of the hell divers, it was hit by a Japanese bomb that made a hole probably big enough that 3 people could have stood in the hole, and the plane still landed. One of the planes was carrying a gas tank on the bottom, and they had to eject it before he could land. They wouldn't let him land with that empty tank on the bottom of the plane. And so quite often what the guys would do to come out and stand on the flight deck holding up a tank and telling the guy to drop it. When the planes returned during the Mariana Turkey shoot and taxiing up the deck, the pilots held up fingers of how many planes they destroyed. And some destroyed as many as 5, and most of them were 2 or 3. And one fellow just had 1, but that was good enough for him. It was a very common sight when airplanes landed for them to tip up and the prop go in the deck and pieces break off. Peter Lamprinos was a Marine aboard our ship, and he was on the catwalk and watching planes land. And one of the planes landed, a piece of prop broke off and flew across the deck and hit him right in the forehead and drove him back into one of the Mark 14 gun sights, and it just demolished it. At his funeral, I was watching when they buried him at sea. I watched the whole thing. He's all sewn up in a canvas bag, and they just tilted the thing up and slid off into the ocean. One time I was standing on the flight deck and I saw the Avenger that had to make a forced landing in the sea. And it carried depth charges because its duty was looking for submarines. I didn't see the plane until it was about 80 feet off the water. I didn't notice it. And its engine wasn't running. It had to make emergency landing in the water. So it hit the water. The three guys were out, and you could see their heads, and they're all smiling, real happy, because they're pretty close to the ship. And when the depth charge got to the right depth, it exploded, and they just all disappeared. And my close friend aboard ship was Nellie. I don't know his first name because he just had his initials, JD. But everybody called him Nellie. And this is a picture taken in Hawaii. And I'm with my best friend, Nellie, and we're in front of a place getting our pictures taken. In 1944, the first Christmas aboard ship, we had a very nice meal. Very good. I kept a copy of the menu and to the museum. This is what happened to the crew and the Hornet. We went through that typhoon called Typhoon Cobra. The damage was so great in the front that planes couldn't take off, so the ship had to go in reverse to launch airplanes. Thank you for hearing my story and watching Hornet Tales. I hope I didn't bore you.